Today we'll be doing more work on the RB25 that we are building for the stolen R32 Skyline. In the last video, I finally assembled the bottom end for good, installing the rods and the pistons, the ARP head studs, the MLS head gasket, and finally the RB25 Neo head. I then installed the cam buckets, which was super satisfying to do, installed the cams, installed the water pump, and then finally test fitted the hot side and cold side for the very first time. This thing is looking absolutely insane. Now, I don't think I've said this before, but this Skyline build is quite literally a dream build for me. I've been working towards this for quite some time, so hopefully it all works out. I still have my doubts because I have absolutely no clue what I'm doing, but hopefully with the help of you guys in the comments, this thing doesn't blow up first start. Anyway, let's get to building the RB25. So underneath this cloth right here is an N1 GTR oil pump that we got from a website on the interwebs. And this is gonna be what is gonna flow the oil in the RB25. Now, apparently the N1 pumps are a little bit stronger, flow a touch more oil. And this alone should be good for our build, but we are gonna upgrade this. I've got boxes on boxes of parts. And in this little box right here is a PRP oil pump billet gear set for the N1 oil pump. So what happens when you hit limiter on an RB25, the gears in these things tend to start cracking. When you abuse these things for a long time, when you put more power through them, the gears inside, which I'll show you in a second, can potentially crack, which can cause a drop in oil pressure and your oil pump to not function correctly. So I've decided, because I want to make a lot of power, to go billet oil pump gears from PRP. And you can see there are actually two different options. You can go the OEM billet oil pump gears, or you can go N1 billet oil pump gears, which is of course what we're doing. So here they are. Very oily. Now, if we flip this oil pump over, we have a backing plate with some Phillips head screws. So we need to take all of these off to get to the oil pump gears. Now, the issue with using just a regular Phillips head screwdriver is that you can strip these, but thanks to Chicane, because we have the correct tools in order to take these Phillips heads out correctly. So the Chicane tool set comes with these special, I forgot what they're called. They're like not Phillips head, they're something else, but these fit perfectly into the key right there. And we're able to use an attachment in order to get enough torque to turn these out, because these are very difficult to turn with a regular screwdriver, just like so. But yeah, massive shout out to Chicane. Our toolbox is right over there. And if you need one of these, head down to Autobarn. Chicane tools, baby. They are so good. Anyway, we got to removing these bolts, and trust me guys, you definitely need the right tools for this, because you can easily strip these. Ah, Jesus Christ. That's what I mean about how hard these bolts are. To access the oil pump gears, you need to take this entire backing plate off, and then we can finally swap out our beautiful billet oil pump gears. Okay, we should be able to remove this plate now. There we go. There's our standard oil pump gears. Interesting. There's our backing plate, very nice. We're gonna be very careful with that, because if this is scuffed up, then we won't have a nice seal, and then we are screwed. So here are the standard oil pump gears. How they work is that oil comes in through one side, gets compressed with these gears. You can see there's a small little gap, and then it pushes it through to the other side, and that's what gets oil flow, lubrication. Yeah. To install the billet oil pump gears, it's as simple as taking the old gears out and then putting the new gears in. You just need to make sure that you install them exactly the same way as they were taken out. On these particular gears, the logo faces down. I then added lubrication everywhere. I also added a little bit of assembly lubrication, because we want to make sure that this thing has a bunch of lube in there. So when we start this thing for the first time, there is no chance of metal on metal with these billet oil pump gears. I then reassembled the backing plate, making sure to use red Loctite so these bolts do not come out. And after doing that, it was finally time to install the oil pump. Oh, go on, you dog. Oil pump gasket, man. Look at that.
Quick, man, quick.
Gotta be quick. Oh, look at that, Ash. That is poggers. With the oil pump installed, it was now time to install these half moons. These are easily losable, so make sure if you're doing a motor build to not lose these, but essentially all they do is make sure that the crank gear doesn't move, and they just go in like so and just get hammered down ever so slightly. The next thing that we needed to do was get the motor in time, and in order to do that, we need to install the timing belt, which means we need to install all the timing things. Yes, the timing things. So the first thing we're going to do is install the idler pulley. We're going to torque it down to spec, which is 40 foot-pounds, and then we're going to install the timing belt tensioner. After that, we installed the backing plate, which is just held on with a bunch of 10mm, and I made sure to use blue Loctite. I was then able to put the cam gears on, but I wasn't able to do that just by myself because I needed a big, strong friend. Okay, so we have the oil pump on, the crank gear on, we've got some of the idler pulleys, the tensioner pulley, we've got both the gears on, and now we need to torque the VCT gear. So we need to torque this down to 90 foot-pounds. So behind the camera, I've got a big, strong man, he's gonna help me. His name? Imwan. Just gonna double check the torque here, because 90 foot-pounds is quite a lot. 123 newton meters, 90 foot-pounds. Okay, so we're gonna set the torque wrench to 90 foot-pounds. 10, 20, 70, 90. Don't touch, because it is gonna fall. All right, start going now. I wanna hear a click. Oh, God, okay, go. Oh, Jesus, that wasn't too bad, but okay. Whew. Good boy. It's all for show, guys.
No, it's not.
You had the bigger rod. The muscles are really right here. Don't know why these are an 11. What are you thinking, Nissan? What were you thinking, huh? 11. Oh, that's good. We've got the cam gears now tightened, and this is why these videos take so much time, because as I'm doing these things, I realize that I don't have the right parts, so I have to go ahead and order some parts. So we got some more parts. Oh, should have opened it like that. So we got ourselves a tensioner spring so that we can tension the belt when it's on, because we are now going to do the timing. And we also got ourselves one of these crank pulley plates. So this is our tensioner pulley, and how it works is it puts tension on the timing belt, and it does that with this spring. Very odd setup. A lot of cars that I've worked on have hydraulic tensioners, whereas this one does not. And it just goes on. You put this spring in the little hole at the back of the tensioner. And then we're gonna make sure that the spring right here, hopefully you can see this, but that little spring sits on top of the bolt coming out right there. So that spring is now, you can see if I turn it this way, I push down, it's putting tension on the belt and it's rotating counterclockwise. The next thing that we need to do is make sure that the engine is in top dead center. And the way that we do that is by looking at the marks on the case right there. So the VCT gear in line, so there's a little dot there and it's in line with that little mark right there. The exhaust cam is also in line. You can see there's a little dot there, and that goes to that little marking on the back case. As for the crank, there is also a dot on the crank pulley just there, and there's also a mark on the oil pump, physical indentation. And here is our timing belt. We went with a Gates timing belt. It's a blue timing belt. I think Grady also does like a blue timing belt, I think. Not too sure, but there's already marks on the timing belt. There should be 3 marks, 2 for the cam gears and 1 for the crank gear. Now it might seem pretty simple, just put the belt on with the marks, but this is actually quite a bit of a process if you haven't done this before. I've done this actually a few times, and yeah, it wasn't any easier this time round. Even without the tensioner, the belt sits on very tight, so you gotta make sure that you don't skip a tooth. Make sure you get the right marks on the dots on the gears, but after you do that, it's a good feeling. Check this out. We got the timing belt on. That was a bit of a pain in the ass. Took me about 10 minutes or so, but you gotta make sure that everything is lined up. And as you can see, yellow mark over there with the dot, another yellow mark over there, and another yellow mark, which might be hard to see just down there. Hopefully, we've done everything correctly. Got compression, that's for sure. If we feel anything bind up, then we have an issue. It's feeling pretty good for now. You can probably tell that I'm nervous as hell. I've now spun the motor a few times and everything seems to be working properly. All I need to do now is chuck all the covers on. Little front plate that we need to throw on, and that just goes on like so. I then installed the thermostat, which is housed with a thermostat housing. Yes. The thermostat just pops into the motor just like so, and then the thermostat housing is held on by my favorite type of seal, gray silicone. So you put this all over the thermostat housing. You don't need to worry about any sort of bought seal because the silicone does that, and then you press it on and then you're good to go. I then installed these half moons at the back of the head. From factory, these are rubber. I got some metal ones off some internet website. Just put some silicone on them. But yeah, the motor's looking pretty good. We've got the half moons installed with some silicone just behind them, and we are now ready to finally seal up the motor so it's free from getting dust and dirt and pieces of metal in there. We're gonna put the valve covers on. But before we do that, we need to weld some fittings on. We're of course gonna be using some Raceworks aluminum fittings. Here is one of them, and I've been sort of dremeling out this spot here so we can have a perfect fit for the aluminum fitting. But before we do any of that stuff, we need to give these a thorough clean because it is so difficult to weld aluminum when anything's dirty. So let's clean these and then start welding. Yeah, look at that, mate. All right, the welds are now done, guys. Check this out. We have the dash 10 fitting all welded on. And you can't even tell, but we filled out this area here, and then I sort of grinded everything down and then smoothed it off. Looking pretty damn cool, man. We also did this valve cover over here. Got the dash 10 fitting there. We need to just clean everything off. There's a bit of oxidization on the weld. But yeah, we're gonna head to Bunnings first, and we're gonna grab some R32 because apparently that is gonna help us clean the covers a lot better. All right, guys, we are now at Bunnings, and we are here to pick up some R32 or some aluminium cleaner. Apparently this over here is gonna give us a pretty good surface so that we can paint on. Looks like it cleans off oxidization, stains, and it's good for aluminium and stainless steel. So let's give this a go, see if it works. It says to dilute this, but I can't be bothered. So I'm just gonna chuck it straight on the aluminium and see what happens. After about 25 minutes, I would say that the R32 is a success. These valve covers look way cleaner, even got a bit of a shine to them, and they are ready for paint. We're not going anything crazy because we want to keep the bay fresh, so we are just going to go straight flat black. Primer, paint, clear coat. I'm just going to do it all at once and get back to you guys. All right, guys, check this out. The valve covers are now on and they look absolutely insane. The 2K clear makes this thing so much more glossy than your regular clear. The fittings look sick. We also taped off up here, and that is a clean install, guys. This thing's looking awesome. Holy moly. Now, the next thing that we got to do is take all these parts off to Royal Drip Works. We sanded these off in the last video. Hopefully these come out pretty nicely. All right, guys, we are here at Royal Drip Works. Royal Drip Works, baby. Mac is going to hook us up. We got all the parts here. Let's drop these off. Oh, ugh. Jeez. Now I'm in a different t-shirt because it is now the next day because I need to go to the machine shop to pick this up. It's a grub screw. Common practice with the RB25 crank is to drill out these spot welds right there in the crank to clean out the journals, and then the machine shop will tap and include grub screws for the crank, as you can see. We were just missing one of them, which is now installed, so we can now finally put the sump on. Before we put the sump on, we need to install the oil pickup. I've cleaned this out as much as I possibly can, and we just need a new seal in order to have that on properly. So just cleaning up the surface, new gasket on like that, and two 12mm bolts to hold this all in place. Next thing that we need to do is install the rear plate. This contains the rear main seal, and this is obviously the old rear main, so we need to take that seal out. It's just this rubber seal right there. Okay, we've got the rear main seal plate all cleaned up, new rear main installed, and now we're just gonna put some silicone around there, then put it onto the motor. So we siliconed the rear main. I love using silicone because it is the most versatile seal product. I've honestly never had issues with a seal job that I've personally done myself, so it's pretty reliable. Anyway, it was time to install the rear main seal and plate, so we got to doing that. Just a few 10mm bolts on the back of the engine to hold it together. Rear plate is now on, and we have just been cleaning the sump for the past hour or so because I don't know if you guys remember, but when we pulled the RB25 apart originally, it was absolutely caked. Oh no. Oh no. So I've been just cleaning this with brake cleaner, methylated spirits, water, anything that I can get my hands on, but it's looking so much better. We're just waiting for the water to dry out, and then we can start drilling a hole and making the head drain. We've got the sump loosely on now on the engine, as you can see, and we just need to figure out a place now to run the head drain. So I'm pretty sure I talked about this in the other video, but we are running a head drain because RBs have an issue where they pull too much oil up into the head, and that oil starves the sump, and that means you don't have any oil going through the pickup, and then you have total engine failure. So a lot of people put an oil drain, which of course I'm gonna do. The head shop actually went ahead and drilled and tapped some holes for me already. So all we need to do now is just install this Ross Performance head drain. And that literally just goes in right like so. You just push that in, and then you run a fitting all the way down to the sump. The head drain's now installed, and I actually had to do a bit of cutting because the head shop messed up and they didn't get these bolts lined up properly, even though I gave them everything. This is why I have trust issues, but we managed to sort of grind this down. Doesn't matter if it's not painted because it's aluminium, but yeah, that's the head drain. Got the block off there. You can have it run either side, but I'm gonna have it run to the intake side. This is a stainless fitting. It's a -8. We're gonna be running a -8 line to just about there or so, just not in the way of the bolt holes. So probably roughly around there. Not bad. Hole is now drilled. It's pretty large because we're going to be welding this from the inside, but fits snug right in there. And as you can see, it fits pretty good. We're probably not going to use any filler. We're just going to weld that like so. Oh my God, I hate welding on the ground. And just like that, we have the oil pan now painted, and there's the fitting right there. This thing's looking hella clean, guys. Look at that. We're now going to install it, tighten everything up, put some silicone on everything, and yeah, pretty stoked with that placement. Progress update, we've got the valve covers now permanently on. They are looking pretty hectic, and we also installed the coil packs as well. And I love how they match with the timing belt. Not that you're gonna see it anyway. Well, I don't know, I might get a clear case. Not too sure, but there's probably gonna be cases over everything. But it is looking fresh, boys. Anyway, we have more stuff to install. I got this oil filter relocating kit. Essentially how this works is this part right here bolts onto the motor itself. So this will go roughly around there. Then we can run lines from this to our oil filter, which we're gonna move off the engine. So we're gonna have that somewhere maybe on the chassis, but that's gonna allow us to also run oil pressure, oil temperature. We also have block offs for those as well if we don't want to run those, but yeah, this is going to be sick. There are a bunch of little parts in here, so I'm going to make sure that I don't lose anything. We've got a bunch of different fittings. The kit came with everything that we need, and yeah, we're going to start installing this as well. Got to make sure that everything is nice and lubricated as well. So we're just going to quickly clean everything. We're going to make sure to Loctite everything because we don't want this coming out ever. Okay, we've got everything installed now. As you can see, there's all these different ports on this oil filter relocation housing. You've got oil pressure, oil temp, and you've got spares for gauges or wherever you want to run this to. But because I don't know what I'm running yet, I'm just going to put all the block offs in. The block offs, as you can see, they're all just in there for now. And then we can work that out later once the engine is in the car. This piece will go probably on the chassis. I'm not too sure actually where I should put this. If you guys know where I should put the oil filter, then let me know in the comments. Maybe I could chuck it on the bottom of the block or something. I don't know. Looks clean, man. Okay guys, we are now done. Check this out, we've got the turbo on. We've actually got it mounted with a V-band clamp. I've put the intake manifold on. I still need to get that machined because apparently the cheap ones, the surface where it meets the head, they're never perfectly flat. We still need to put the timing case on, but I might get a clear cover so we can see all this beautiful stuff. Anyway, thanks guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you all in the next one.